To get started with Copilot Studio, just go to copilotstudio.microsoft.com, put in your work or school email address, a couple of quick steps to sign up for a free trial, and then you will find yourself in this landing page. And to get started with building your first Copilot, all you need to do is click Create a Copilot. We're going to give the Copilot a name. Now, depending on what you want to do, this can be something quite serious or quite fun. I'm going to have some fun with it because why not? I'm creating a Copilot here that is going to be a customer-facing Copilot that can help answer questions about the Australian tourism industry. And as a starting point, I'm going to use the Tourism Australia website, which has a lot of information in it. If you do want to get started creating a Copilot on a website, and when you're learning, this is a really good way to understand what the AI is capable of doing, pick something that has a lot of information in it. Things like government services, tourism services, health services, and things often have a lot in there. If you pick something that's your company website and you've just got about us, contact us, you won't get much of an experience out of this. You only need the top level domain, and we are going to click create to get started. Now, a website is only one of the things you can do here. You can actually bypass that step altogether. I'm going to take you through all of the different things here that you can do, including crafting your own topics, using this AI-based generative answers capability, and also setting up your Copilot to be able to take actions on behalf of the user using a very cool new thing called generative actions and dynamic chaining. Now, this is still setting up. You'll see I've got a gray message here. This feature isn't available until your Copilot has finished setting up. I'm going to do this in real time so that you get a realistic expectation of how long it takes, which is really only a couple of minutes. I could not have timed that better. I did not rehearse that down to the second, but how good was that? So what has happened there is provisioned the Copilot in the background. We are actually just working here in the test canvas. So we've got a test Copilot canvas down the side here. If you close that down to see more of what's on the screen or you lose it, don't panic. Bottom left here, test your Copilot will bring it back. When we get to the end of building it, we are actually going to publish it and see it on a public-facing website. So as I said, this one is a customer-facing, public-facing Copilot that I'm building. This one won't need any authentication, but you can also use this if you're not doing something with a website, or even if you are, you can also add in other types of documents, SharePoint repositories, all sorts of things to have internal chatbots if you prefer internal Copilots. But let me take you through this customer-facing example in this tutorial. So this is ready to go. We are going to do a lot more than this, and do stay tuned. Give this video a like and give me a subscribe if you want more content on Copilot Studio, because I can't get enough of this stuff at the moment. Hello, I'm Bruce, a virtual assistant. What can I do in Sydney? Now, I haven't edited this at all. What's going to happen is it's going to use what it's provisioned in the background using something called generative answers to provide an answer. So this is actually using a large language model, a little bit like what's sitting under ChatGPT, to go out to the information that I've provided it, pointed it to, and it's generating an answer back for me, including a bunch of references here. So if I click on 4 days in Sydney, that will actually open that page, and you'll see that it's giving me information from a few levels down in the website. So some of the documentation on this says you can only go 3 levels down. That's just that top when you put in the website to start with. You're better off to start with that top level website, but it will actually find the answers further down the trail. And there we go, 4 days in Sydney. Anyone want to do this? I've done the Sydney Harbour Bridge climb. That's good. Bondi to Coogee Beach. Anyway, I'm getting distracted by fun things to do. So you can also here have contextual questions. It keeps the thread of the conversation. So we could say more like, tell me more about Taronga Zoo. Let me misspell it as well on purpose. Oh no, I didn't misspell it. I spelled it correctly. So we can do that, and it'll give us more information about that. What animals are there? Now, this is a more general question, right? Because if I just came along and said to the chatbot at the start, what animals are there, then you would find that it wouldn't answer it specifically to Taronga Zoo. So you'll see how it's actually remembering the context of the conversation. I have used the word chatbot and Copilot interchangeably here, and I'm just going to pull myself up on that. This is the Copilot concept here is doing a lot more than a traditional chatbot. A traditional chatbot couldn't do this. You would have to be having question nodes and different answers and a predetermined conversational path. This is actually using generative AI, large language models to generate all of these things. Plus, we can do a lot more with it. So I'm going to try and correct myself here and start calling it a Copilot. Call me out in the comments if I get it wrong again. And there's another reference to that. So a lot of demos of this stuff sort of finish there, woohoo, that's great. But there's a lot more than you can do with this, because you don't always want generative answers handling everything. This is AI going out, finding the information and generating a summary or generating an answer back for you, which was amazing because, frankly, if you were trying to create a chatbot across all of this content from scratch, that would be a lot of work. However, there are moments where you do want to actually control the conversation. So as an example here, if I scroll down, there's information about visa and entry requirements. Now, this requires precise information. It's actually the government's job to look after this, not Tourism Australia. So you'll see it actually says, please check the Department of Home Affairs. So rather than just relying on generative answers to answer everything in your chatbot, you need to think about this idea of conversational orchestration. How do you want your bot to know where it should be going in the conversation? It's going to be able to handle many different things by the time we're done with it here. We're going to be able to have it tell the weather. We're going to be able to have it help us with visas, all sorts of things. And so you need to make sure that it understands where to go on that conversational path. And topics is one of the ways that you have to control that conversational path. So part of building out this Copilot, as much as I'm showing you these nice, easy click and point skills, is really thinking about the planning of where that information is and where those topics should go and how you want that conversational orchestration to work. Let's build out a topic so I can show you what we mean. So I'm going to come in here. Let's just refresh this conversation. This little button at the top does this. And I'm actually going to ask it, do I need a visa? Just so that you can see what happens before we put anything else in. All it's got at the moment. So this incidentally is not, it's not like ChatGPT. It's not connected to everything and able to answer everything. It's only got what you've given it. So it doesn't start with that same kind of generative language model over everything. It's only looking at the data sources that we've given it. So you can see now that it's given you that information. That's fine, but we want to control this conversation. We'll come over here to topics, and I'm going to say, let's create a topic. Now from blank will give me the full drag and drop experience, but create from a description with Copilot is actually really cool. Using a Copilot to create your Copilot. Do love that. All right, let's name this topic. This one is visa. I'm just going to copy paste rather than you having to watch me type this in. So you can describe things, and you'll see there's some good examples here in that you can actually sort of specify how you want the conversation path to go, because this is something where you can actually have it with branching logic and redirects and conditions and things. We'll have a look at all of that in a moment. So I'm going to keep this one nice and simple. Let a user ask questions about a visa and redirect them to this site. And while it's doing that, the site that I'm redirecting them to is the government site about visas. And I'm actually not going to use generative AI on this at all. I want them to just go to the government website and that's it. We don't want AI for this part of the use case. You can put generative answers like we saw earlier across a particular thing in this topic level, but that's not what we're doing here. Let's have a look at what we've got. Let's clean the screen up a bit because there's a lot here. So first of all, I'm just going to close down my test Copilot so I've got a bit more space. We've got a panel down the side here that is explaining what it's done. So it's added all of this, and you can see we've got some other things in here. What it's done is created a bunch of what's called trigger phrases. Now, this is a traditional way of using a natural language understanding so that my Copilot knows in the orchestration of the conversation, if someone asks about a visa, go to this topic. And when we're looking at trigger phrases, this is expressing it 4 or 5 ways, the same way of saying the same thing. You don't even have to figure those phrases out anymore because the Copilot has figured it out for you, but you can come in here and edit that if it isn't quite getting it right. You'll see it's also created for me a message. If you have any questions, please visit this site. all good. Awesome. Let's test this out. You don't even have to save it to test this working, although it's probably good practice to save, but I'm just going to shortcut that a little bit. So let's refresh this conversation again. Do I need a visa? And this time it is going to not go for the generative answers and go straight into that topic. And we can do more with topics. So again, I'm just going to close this one down and give myself a little bit more space here. If I open this out, I'm just going to take all of that out and leave that message in there. And I can add other things into my message here. So we can have different variations on the message. You can also add images, videos, basic and adaptive cards. Adaptive cards require that you know how to write those things, which is getting a little bit more into coding than I would like to do here. The basic card, if you're a beginner and you don't have adaptive card skills, this is a really cool thing that you can do. So first of all, I'm going to give this one a title. We're going to call this visa information, and watch what happens in my canvas as I build this out. It starts to kind of give me a preview in real time. Subtitle, what to do. No, we'll go all about getting visa to visit Australia. There's my subheading. Nice. We can put in an image. I'm going to come back to that. The text that I want to put in here is the link that I copied from before. So we're just going to paste that in, and I will come back and get rid of some of the junk that I had around it, just rather than copying and pasting it a couple of different times. And you'll see now that link is in there. And then with the image, easiest way to do this is just to grab an image that's online. So I'm going to come in here and get the Department of Home Affairs logo and copy the image link, come back over in here, paste that in there, boom. How good is that? Let's save it this time because this one feels a bit more worth saving. So now what we've got is that same experience. We'll come back and test the Copilot again, give it a refresh and say, do I need a visa? And now it's going to come up with this lovely card. So you can play around with images, insert videos, do all sorts of things there. Topics also have some other features in them that allow you to do more with controlling the conversation, including variables, conditional branching, and entities. So I'll take you through those core topics. I want to change this system message though. So look at this. Hello, I'm Bruce, a virtual assistant. I sometimes use AI to answer your questions. This is good actually, because when you're doing something customer facing, you do want to make sure that the customer knows that it is a chatbot and not a real person. But this next part here, if you provided a website during creation, try asking me about it. This is kind of talking to me. This is not what I would want my Copilot to be saying out into my customer world. So let's go back to topics, back up a level here. And instead of in the custom topics, so you'll see there's the visa one that I've just created, let's go into system topics and choose conversation start. And what you'll see here, hello, I'm bot name, and all of that information that's in there. This is a variable, this little X with the brackets around it, which means it's picking up that information from somewhere else. We're going to see another example of that in a moment. So let's get rid of all of this stuff that's a little bit sort of maker facing and change it. I can help you find things to do in Australia, or whatever it is you want to do. You can extend the conversation from here. We'll show you that in the next one. Now it looks like the save button is grayed out here. Just click away anywhere else on the canvas and click save. And now Bruce is going to be a little bit more customer facing. So the next thing we're going to do is another topic that is about somebody asking, how long should I stay in Australia? And so if we come in here, we've actually got another part on the website here that's how long do I need for my trip? And this one is sort of talking about if you've got a week or less, a week to 10 days, 2 weeks or more. So let's come in and create another topic from a description. We'll call this one, how long should I stay? And then let's say, let the user ask about how long they should plan for their trip to Australia and create this. Now I'm going to show you a couple of other things with this example, and I'm deliberately doing more than one topic because I want to show you this experience of the Copilot being able to determine where to go. So let's close this, and you'll see what's happened here is the first thing that's come up, we've got these trigger phrases again. How long are you planning to stay in Australia? So this is, instead of just a message now, this is a question. Let me sort of go back a level here. If I come in, if you're building out a topic from scratch, these are all of the different things you can do. So send a message is like what we saw before, where it just provides you with that information. You can ask a question, which is what this one is doing. Adaptive card, again, if you are able to work with that technology, you can level up the look and feel of the whole thing. We'll have a look at conditions in a moment, which is adding the branching, as well as working with these variables. So this is a question node, and what it's looking for is called an entity, not to be confused with the use of the word entity to mean tables in Dataverse. It's not the same thing. This is within AI. An entity is a type of information that is a specifically known category of information that you're looking for in unstructured text. So this is looking for a duration inside of what the user is going to respond. So there are some other things in here that we can find. So these entities come out of the system. We can have age, city, color, continent, date, all of these different types of things. So this is going to come up with something that understands a length of time. I'm going to change it a little bit here and just say I want it to just look for a number. What this means is that if the user comes in and says, I plan to stay for 3 weeks, it can actually just find the 3 in there, but the duration would actually sort of understand more than that, but we're gonna do that. So I'm going to say, how many weeks are you planning to stay in Australia? So I'm just looking for a number in the answer. And you'll see then what it's doing is saving the response in a variable, so we can pick that up further down in the conversation thread. From here, what we're going to do is say, let's add a condition. So we're branching the conversation now. So you see how I'm starting to get control over where the thread of the conversation goes. So I'm going to say the condition here, what variables have I got to work with? So I've just created that one in there. If that is less than or equal to 2, so less than or equal to 2 weeks, then what I want to do is send a message pointing them to this website here. So we'll come back here and say, fantastic, here's our guide for short trips, and paste that in there. On the other hand, we want to say something else. So because that guide only covers sort of short trips up to 2 weeks. So here we're just going to send a message saying, awesome, mate. You can see more than 3 places on your trip. Please keep exploring. So whatever it is you want to do, I could do the same thing I did before and come in here and add an image, or do whatever else we want in there. So you'll start to get the idea. Have a play around with this. That should give you a good sense of the basics of it. We're finding that this is still an important part of the capability of Copilot Studio. Even though you can just sort of point at something and get generative answers, you'll probably want to create these topics to cover off the most important 10-20% of your use case, where you really do want to control the thread of the answers. There's a very new thing in here, though, that is absolutely amazing. And this is in preview, but I want to show it to you because maybe if you're watching this in the future, hello from the future to in the future, this one might actually be really, really available. So what we're going to do is go into this generative AI setting here. I want you to scroll down and find this piece here that's called Dynamic Chaining with Generative Actions. Now this is going to change some stuff. So before I do that, let me just remind you what it looks like at the moment. We've got topics in here, which is the visa, and the trigger is these phrases. If I type in any phrase that the natural language model understands, it's going to find that one. Same with this one, how long should I stay? If we come over here and switch on dynamic chaining and click save, what this is doing is now changing it. So we're not using the trigger phrases anymore. It's okay. This is actually changing to a different, this is now using the large language model instead of the traditional Copilot chatbot natural language understanding, which picks up on a trigger phrase, which is how we've always done it. This is a brand new way of doing it, which is that it's going to use the understanding the large language model to work out where it should go. So let's go back to your topics, and you'll see what's happened now is that this is all changed. See, we've got all this dynamic chaining. So don't worry about the tutorial topics in there. We're just going to look at the ones we did before. So if I come in here and have a look at how long should I stay, this one now says dynamic chaining. And if I come in here, this is going to have a description in it. And this description is really important. So it's automatically generated it from what I built before. This tool can handle queries like these. How long should I stay? Duration of stay. So it's actually picked up on the phrases that we had in there before, but turned it into a natural language sort of prompt that the system will look for. You'll find it's done the same thing with the visa topic as well, and put that in there. And again, you can edit this. So if you're going to use this feature on dynamic chaining, firstly, don't freak out when your phrases have gone. The first time I did this, I was like, wait, but there's no trigger phrases, because it's handling that orchestration in a new way. And you'll find then your planning, instead of, we used to have to really think about the differentiation of the trigger phrases, this is going to give you a smarter result. But those descriptions now is what is really going to make or break this whole thing. So just to sort of show you that this is all going to be okay, you'll find here, let's give this a refresh, you'll find once I've turned on dynamic chaining that we've got this other new tracing mode, and this is going to help you in the canvas understand where the conversation is going. So we've got Bruce with his new message here. I'm going to say, where should I go in Melbourne this time, just to mix it up a little bit. This is my hometown. And you'll see that this one should pick up on the generative answers because it's not any of those topics that we've specifically triggered, so we should be okay. And then we'll give it a go with the topic around the visa and around the how long should I stay as well. We'll just pick one of those. Now, I do find this can sometimes be a little bit slow at this point. When you're working on a trial system, you're not getting the full system resources, so don't, it's a bit different if you actually start to pay for it. Plus, I'm running my recording software over things, which always slows things down a bit. So here we go. That's great. Do I need a visa? And hopefully on the conversation map on the right-hand side here, this time we'll see it actually pick up on a specific topic because that's where we want it to go. While we're waiting for that to happen, so my timing is just either completely on or completely off today. So there we go. The next thing I'm going to show you is I want the bot to take some action. So we've looked at generative answers as a starting point, which is where it can go out and find information. But if you're working with something that's more structured data, or you want it to be able to interact in a way to create rows in a table or interact with those database systems taking action on behalf of the user, then we've got this little power button here called actions. So if we come across here, you'll see I haven't got any yet. This is also in preview at the time of recording, but this is absolutely the future of how we're going to be doing these things. So wherever you are, this is what we need to be doing. So what we can do here is create actions that can reach out to pull information from database systems or from other systems. Anything essentially with an API or a connector is what we're looking at here. Now, this starts to use the terminology plugin. If you're a low-code person like me, just stick with me on the term plugin here, because up until now, plugin has felt like a very high-code situation, but actually now the term plugin is kind of being used as almost like a connector, and there are these low-code plugins in the platform. So this is now becoming the domain of many, many more of us. So what we can do here is to find things that are in the Power Platform connectors. So there's, thousands, not tens of thousands, actually I think it's about 1,000 of them. So you'll see we can do things like get a row, delete a row. If I searched for Dataverse in here, I would be able to find the actions that go with the Dataverse situation, so I can delete a row from somewhere. So you can see these are all things that you can get your Copilot to do on behalf of the user. So you can pick out a particular action. What I'm going to do here, and I will come back and do another tutorial on this. If you're interested, let me know in the comments. But just to keep it nice and compact for now to get you started, the one we're going to have a look at is this one here that's called Get Forecast for Today. I'm going to pick this one because this actually uses an API. It's completely free. You don't have to sign up. You don't have to pay anything. It's just like low friction for you to learn from. and it's fun. And it goes with the rest of my scenario. So we're just going to click that, and this is connecting to that API. Now, if you've got an API to another system with a key, you'd put in all the details here. But like I said, I love this one because just minimal effort. It just lets you play with it, and we'll click next. I'm going to come back to the options here and what we can do, but just to explain the concept, the action. So what we're doing with these actions is picking a particular thing that the bot is going to do. It's going to get the weather forecast as opposed to post a line in Dataverse or delete a line in Excel or any of those other things that we could do. You do have a code editor if you're so inclined. I'm not going there. All of the action details. So this is describing what it does. And this is where it's important because this description, remember what dynamic chaining was doing before, is actually going to determine that orchestration of where the conversation goes. This has two inputs, the location, where do you want the weather for, and units, do you want imperial or metric units, and then it has a lot of outputs. Look at all of these different things. So let's just play with this as it is, and importantly, this plugin can be accessed during that dynamic chaining. All right, let's finish that. It'll take a second or so to process the request. So then we can come in and give it a question. What is the weather in Sydney? And what this is going to do is understand from my intent, based on the description of what's going on with my generative actions, that's the topic, that's the plugin that it needs to go to. It also understands that I've given it a location and it can find that in there. And then it will use the generative AI to come back and actually give me the response. And there it is. It's pretty cool, right? Now, you'll notice that it's giving it to me in Fahrenheit, which I don't work in Fahrenheit. Maybe if my tourism bot was for a US audience, that would make sense, but let me show you how you can change this. Let's just close the test Copilot down and have a look inside the action to see what we can do. So first of all, we've got the details. So this is the description that helps the dynamic chaining understand where to go. We've also got inputs and outputs. So the first one, the input, it needs a location. We want to dynamically fill this with the best option that it finds. So that's working just fine. And you can see that it can actually handle all sorts of different ways that can be input. Units, we will dynamically fill with the best option, which is the default option. Instead of that, I'm going to say set as a particular value. Yes, I want to confirm that. And then I can choose a value, I for imperial and C presumably Celsius, so we'll choose that. Outputs as an option here, you can see that we've got the choice to say, I want AI to dynamically generate that message, or I want to create a particular message. So you can take manual control back over that output if you want. And you can see there's 39 outputs here, including a whole bunch of stuff I don't want. So if there are any of these things that you don't want to be part of the Copilot, you can just go through and delete those things so that they're not coming through in the answer. And then once you are happy with those options, you can just click Save. Now, before we test this again, let's publish this thing and make it real and put it out into the world. So what we'll do is go through here into settings, and there's a couple of things we're going to do before we publish. First thing here is we've got the Copilot details. My Copilot's name, that's where you can go if you need to change it. And if you would like a better icon than that, and really, why wouldn't you? Let's change the icon. Here's a little tip for you. Copilot.microsoft.com in your browser. This is free. Even if you don't have a Copilot license, you can use this. And I've put in an image prompt here, create me a cute icon for a bot that helps people with travel advice for Australia. Quite like that one. Now it needs a relatively small image in PNG format. So what we do is we just right click on that. I'm going to say save image as, and I'm going to call this Aussie Copilot, and you'll see that it only lets you save it as a JPEG, but I'm actually just going to put in here .png because it needs it as a PNG image. Change that to all files and click Save. I'm going to come back into my Copilot here, change icon, grab that one that I just did, and look at that. Isn't that cute? And let's save that. Now, the other thing you want to do is set up your security and authentication options. So actually by default now what happens is that it has authentication on because a lot of people are using this to set up the SharePoint, pointing it to a SharePoint list. And so you absolutely want people to be authenticating if you're using a SharePoint list. But this one is going to be a publicly available customer-facing Copilot. So I'm going to choose no authentication and click save. It's going to give me a warning here to say, are you sure that you just want anyone to be able to access this? Yes, I do. And so we'll save those changes in there. And then I am going to close that and go into publish. Now, first of all, we'll click publish, and then we can choose to put it out on whatever channel. In your real world scenario, you would have a proper website, which I haven't got, I haven't built. And you can also put it out on all of these other channels. So when it comes up, we'll show you what they are. If it's internal, you might want to publish it to Teams. If you actually do have the full Copilot from Microsoft 365 license, you can use this as an extension of what you've built in there, but that's a whole other video as well. So what we've got here is if I go to channels, this is going to show me the different things that we can do. So this is the one I was talking about, extending Copilot from Microsoft 365, but you can put it in Telegram. We've got a bunch of different things here, email, Facebook, but I'm just going to use the demo website. And the easiest way to do that is just to go back to the publish option here and then click demo website to try it out. And that will open up a new tab. And I should find, hello, I'm Bruce, with my nice little icon. Oh no, it's not giving me the nice little icon yet. We'll see how we go. Might have been too fast to refresh that. So I can say, what should I visit in Perth? Let's try somewhere different this time and see what it comes back with the answer here. So this experience on the demo website is just sitting right here. Obviously, if you wanted it to be sort of that pop-up chat experience, all of that is done in the configuration in your own website. You just grab the snippet here and then give it to your website developer and you can hand over to someone who knows what they're doing with making it appear in the right way. We'll give it a moment. There we go. Lots of things you can do in Perth. Is anyone excited about visiting Australia after this video? What is the weather like? Let's see what happens now. And do you see what's happened here? This is clever. This is now understood that I have asked about the weather and it has picked up the context of the conversation I was already in because I was talking about Perth. I didn't even put the location in there, but it's got the context and it's able to go across and do that. Do I need a visa to visit? And that brings up the part with my beautiful card in there. There's actually a lot more you can do. We've covered off enough here for you to get started, but you can actually extend all of this by connecting with OpenAI on your data. If you'd like to know more about that, check out my video here. Let me know what else you'd like to see around Copilot Studio, and thank you very much for watching.